Hello, welcome to Wilde Speculations. I'm Daniel. Tonight, talk about Critical Role Campaign 3, Episode 42, The City of Flemington. I hope you are having a good evening. Probably better than me, hopefully. But, this episode started out great. I really appreciated our players giving us hints as to their new abilities in training montages. And I think it's unavoidable. I think this episode, I'm going to have to be talking down on Matt a little bit, I think. Because I don't think he's in an odd change of behavior. He seems to be not picking up what his players are putting down in terms of what they want. And this training montage, I think in part was their response to that. They know they're not going to have a combat for an episode or two, maybe 3. And they want to give a little hint as to what some of their abilities could be. And we get Ashton training with one of the Gorgine. Scott sent me some notes for him in his absence tonight, where he broke down crit roll stat stuff for you, and I'll deliver them now, since that's where we are. Ashton got a half feat and added to his constitution. I think it was Crusher. It could have been Tavern Brawler, but I tend to think it's Crusher because he sought out the hammer wielder of the Gorgine. And when I was watching the episode, I originally thought Great Weapon Master, or a potential house feat, where Matt was going to allow the bludgeoning damage to stun or daze the target. It still could be that. I'm doubtful of that. I think it's likely, most likely, the Crusher feat, which when you crit, I think you can knock a creature prone. But yeah. Orem took Skill Expert and added to his Charisma. So he's climbing up that Charisma ladder. So maybe some of the stuff we were talking about last week is potentially in the future. He took his expertise in perception, as evidenced by his passive perception of 29. We got some displays from his sword seedling, as he named it. It gives him a reach attack. I don't know if that's once per turn. I don't know if he has to expend something to do that. It has some kind of a Thorn Whip mechanic. And Matt did clarify that it is not the Thorn Whip spell. He just says it's like that. Scott thinks it has some sort of an entangling strike as part of it. Imogen boosted her dex and her charisma and maxed it out. Fern, love Ashley, and like as the episode was going on, and I mentioned it on last week's video in some of the comments, that we got enough. I was like, we got enough right on calling it that we called it. And Fern is the great mystery. A D8 hit die doesn't answer the question of which class that she took, because rogues and druids are both D8. So she either has cunning action or 4th level spells. We'll see. FCG took a half feat, and as he was going through the first part, I'm like, did he take chef? And the +1 wisdom and his RP, I think he took chef, and I think Scott does too. Laudna took her level in sorcerer, as we saw in the hit die rolling thing, and she took the 3rd level spell slot, Fireball. I look forward to its use. I thought the Let's Learn from Fern was funny, and there were a lot of callbacks to bringing her back, or the lack thereof, by Fern, and her apologizing. And also Fern bringing up the red creature of death that Laudna summoned. Or Imogen. See, I'm doing it now. Chetney took Bloodhunter, which means he gets a bonus to his speed, a new Crimson Right, and better natural weapon attack in his wolf mode. And Scott pointed out that we get a reinforcement of the found family, despite them trying to kill each other. And the fact they're like, it's happening again! And they talk to Chetney about a sign, and Orm's like, yeah, usually the sign is you were gnawing on me. Can we not do that? I thought that opening was fantastic on many levels. Saying goodbye to the Gorgini was funny. Them tossing the rabbit at Laudna was absolutely hilarious. The flirtations from Fern were great. And their confirmation of you're an ally. You know, you guys are on the right path. You have good friends. Take care of each other. Da da da. The usual spiel. And then Imogen gets the ship to them. I don't know. They were sort of wishy-washy with time. And in part, it sort of helps, but doesn't. When you give travel in time, especially when you're going through like difficult terrain as a jungle would be. How far did they travel? Versus how fast and how far can the airship travel? So, but them having to wait most of a day for it kind of makes sense. And I think Laura had a plan, and I think it was probably prestidigitation to signal them, but we just sort of hurried past that. I think Matt was in a hurry to get to his city, or to read what he had written, I should maybe say, because for me, we entered the worst part of the episode with getting to the City of Lights. City of Flowing Light, sorry. Matt wrote, my guess is about 3,500 words of florid expositional prose about the approach to the city. And it was very evocative, and his players do enjoy that. And it is the one bit of stage space that Matt gets as the DM, where he's not an NPC, he doesn't have to act, he is simply delivering a description of their environment. Matt, more often than not, does write his descriptions out, especially as the establishing shot, as it were. And normally they don't grind my gears so much, but this one bothered me. And I was trying to put my finger on why. And the only thing that I think I can put it down to is, despite all the description that he gives and setting the mood and the environment of this place, more than one of his players and myself, as a viewer, did not have a clear picture in my head as to what this city actually looked like. And that's bad. To go on for as long as he did, and for you not to have a very good picture in your head of the space, is rough for me as a viewer. And I was debating whether or not I wanted to spend a lot of time talking about this, but we do give a lot of love to Matt when he deserves it. Yeah, Rose, and I'm not entirely sure either. There's some sort of tier system. I thought at first it was a vertical tier system, but now it might be like going up. Now it seems more like maybe it's going down. And I thought initially when I was picturing it and as he was describing it, I pictured something more like Atlantis, the way Plato describes Atlantis. But it seems more like it's a ring, and then another ring in some manner. So, yeah, I'm not sure how all that is working. And that's why I have done sessions, not giving the players a map. I'm not putting a map on the table. Longtime viewers of the channel know I don't use minis. So there's none of that. and I'm describing a dungeon that the players are going through. And as I'm doing this, I notice some of them are drawing it. They're making their own map. And at the end of the session, I was like, can I see your map? I'm like, yeah, sure. And they show it to me, and I'm like, wow. And it was almost exactly what I had drawn, without the perfect dimensions of the graph paper. But they had everything sort of in proportion to where it should be, as they explored it. I don't know that Matt has ever achieved that, and I don't think anyone on the show has ever tried that, to like draw their own map. And I was just sort of laughingly thinking about, a picture being worth 1,000 words. And I was like, that's an understatement. It's apparently worth a few thousand. Or can be. But yeah. They get to the casino. And there's some debate amongst them whether or not they are going to stay at this lounge or explore the city some. And that immediately goes out the window. As they basically admit to themselves, no, we're going to gamble and we're going to stay here. The casino bit was a great portion of the episode for me. And again, Matt describing everything and giving you sort of the feeling of the place, but not really a good layout description. Because there was some confusion whether they were on the upper level or lower level. Is it like open? Can you see down? Not a lot, but enough confusion that I was just kind of like, ugh. And yeah, Rose, the RP in the scene was just amazing. Loved it, every minute of it. And the perfect example of presentism and player life experience informing the view of the environment that they are in the game. Many of them have been to Vegas. We learned that Matt does not like Vegas. And it would seem that Travis has gone a lot. And the husband and wife moment between Laura and Travis, when she's like, every time he comes behind me, the table goes cold. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I got a hot table. So good. I also have a soft spot for mini games that DMs come up with. And I'm going to ask everybody, and this is mostly for YouTube, I think, but if you have a link to a collection of games or somebody's casino games, leave that in the comments. I love that stuff. It was the C Team, I think. Season 1, I think. So several years ago, when Jerry introduced giants and halflings at the table. And he could have gotten it from someone else. I'm not 100% sure. But that game, I was like, oh man, that's great. And I used it, I think, a week or two after that. uh, in a tavern scene. But yeah, all the mini games that people come up with to uh, approximate cards, different dice games that you can play. Um, and Matt basically had a version of blackjack of 21 played with d10s, which I thought d12 would have been better to approximate. Um, but uh, it was good for the players because every one of them got 21, um, which was hilarious. Uh, and and now I can't remember the name of the other game. But it had me thinking about a game that was taught to me when I was in England. Uh, 3 Card Blind, I think, something like that was the name of it. But basically, you could play as a betting game. You could play your hand blind, which means you only had to bet half of what anyone else was betting. Or you could look at your cards and bet accordingly. And Three of a Kind was the top hand. You could have flush, pair, high card, and usually high card was what you ended up winning on. But yeah, I was trying to think of a way to represent that with dice as the session was in play, and I was like, man. And it just reiterated to me how much I enjoy that aspect of other people's creations. And so I also enjoyed that part of the casino session. It also put to mind more because we got the disappointment in the no random encounter, and Ashley, jokingly repeating back at Liam, "You're dead to me," because he says, "You're useless to me." I think Ashley, they have a confirmation bias when Ashley is rolling the dice simply because she rolled the white dragon in campaign 2. So I think they have a confirmation bias that she will roll them an encounter, right or wrongly, which is hilarious to me. But they want to roll dice. I mean, the clickety-clack math rocks, especially when you have a dice goblin like Laura at the table. They want to use them, you know? And the casino thing and playing the games was the perfect example of that. And Laura expressing disappointment because Laura really wants to play these games, but Imogen would not. And then the group saying, "Oh no, come on, come on, come on," to give her that permission. I enjoyed as well. But it was another example of, like, Matt, your players are telling you something here, man. You know, gotta give them something. And I think the I was gonna say I think the biggest, but biggest might not be the right word. They are itching for the battle, yeah. The most significant house of cards being built within the group, let's put it that way, is FCG lying or trying desperately to build happiness even on lies. Playing into Chetney's delusion of, we'll be high rollers and we'll get the room for free and we'll get all this stuff for free, because Travis is bringing in how casinos can sometimes try to trap their high rollers into staying at the casino to gamble more. Where no indication of that was given at all, that was possible. And given how few ships there were in port, I don't think the casino would be up for that. There's a lot of joking about seafood. And again, I think this is informed from Vegas, being miles from the ocean, hundreds of miles from the ocean, and the fact that seafood at a buffet often is taking your life into your own hands. Although it did provide for many, many jokes and poop jokes. Which were hilarious. Matt uses the tried and true NPC as a vehicle of exposition and as a tour guide. They, of course, mistrust him immediately. Insight checks, mind readings go by. And I think Matt should start asking, especially, like, Imogen I think she has subtle spell. So I think when she says, I'm casting Detect Thoughts, I think Matt should be asking her, are you using sorcery points? And reiterating, like, casting spells isn't just, it happens. If you're doing stuff. Which got me to think, how would I hide the casting of Detect Thoughts? And I think the simplest and most elegant solution I came up with was to wear a copper earring, or earrings, either one, and make your somatic component as you just go to sort of scratch your ear, and then you manipulate the earring and cast your spell. I think that's the easiest way to ensure that you always have that component, number one, at hand. Two, to disguise it, because especially people with long hair are always, touching their hair, and everyone has a different way that they hold their hands and what finger they use, what movement they use as they do it. So you can get away with a lot of stuff doing that. So yeah. And we've talked about how, as great of a investigator, that Laura is, that she picks up on things quickly, that she's one of the better role players at the table, she has always been horrible with spell components. And Matt just asking you know, how are you, or are you using subtle spell, might help get her over that. Or at least it could get her over that, and or tax her resources before and more so than might otherwise happen. We'll see. Drawing Image in the bath was interesting, and her taking the opportunity to go invisible, jump out the window, and fly till she's above the city where she has no voices coming in at her, which was a beautiful moment. Like in my mind's eye, the scene that I'm seeing play out is the horrible weight that Imogen has all the time when she's around people. That Laura was, physically enacting at the table. And, like, the idea that flying that high to be away from the voices is equally or more relaxing than slipping into a hot bath. Was, I don't know, it was great. And she cast Sending again. And gave us the moment I've been wondering if we were going to get, is the rejection of her mother's attempts at protecting her. I think that's going to be a very important point in Imogen's story. For good or ill. Because I could see Imogen falling towards the dark side because of her mother's actions. And just embracing this power out of spite. Especially if she or anyone else expresses that her mother is a coward. But I think Imogen is implying that in what she says to her mother, and how she's like, I'm not going to run anymore, or I can't run, or something like that. And her mother continuing to refuse to tell her where she is at. And I think the next time the Sendings happen, Imogen is going to confront her mother with what she should know already, which is, I'm growing in power because you left. Basically, give her Master Uguay's line, we often meet our destiny on the road we take to avoid it. You left me to not follow in your footsteps, but that's made me follow in your footsteps. And I'm at least or more powerful than you. So you can't help me anymore. Kind of thing. And I could see potentially her messaging Otahan. And Otahan trying to fill the role of her mother as a guide through and to the power. Because Imogen had sort of been waking up to the notion of accepting this power and rejecting her mother's always saying run. For Otahan to be killing her friends and saying, it's not me, I can't do it, you have to. Let go. Embrace it. And she did, and blew up, a couple blocks of a city, but saved her friends. Such in the state that they were. And now she's, like, I can see Otahan using that. Like, mother is rejecting my pleas for help. I have a feeling she's going to be unfulfilled by the people in Eos. And the only person she's going to have to reach out to is Otahan. Other than the other members of Bell's Hells. But I don't know if any of them are in a particular place to help her in any way. That's not going to cause as much harm as reaching out to Otahan. Plus, the longer they're not chasing down Otahan's progress on her solstice plans, the more likely her contacting Otahan to say, let's join forces becomes. Because that's the shortcut. And if she can actually believe it when she sends the message, i.e., she really does want to talk to Otahan and find out what, whatever she needs, it will ring truer if she actually does want that. And the stopping them on the solstice stuff becomes a nice secondary thing. Orym covering for her, both in not saying anything when she left and turning off the water for her and helping her out getting back into the room. Something about it was very sort of Secret Service agent of him, and she's his charge. And we've talked about how Orym has sort of been putting Imogen in that place where he put Keyleth, or at least where Liam put Keyleth. And it's going to be interesting and terrifying to see Laura lean into that leadership role with a character that has the charisma to back it up. I look forward to it. The last part of the episode, 21 minutes of a tour of the city where we get a little more of an idea of some of the infrastructure and culture of the area. Again, not a great idea of the layout. I'm unsure exactly if they had to go down some waterfalls or up some lifts. We just have it narrated that they're operating. and the city is much more mundane in the light of day when bioluminescent algae are not evident. And I felt really sad for Sam. Because as Matt is describing this, the seabirds squawking overhead and just, being everywhere, he was making the action like he was afraid, and I could tell he wanted to say something, but Matt was on this expositional, dump that he was doing, and so he didn't. And I felt sad for him, and I thought the scene would have been enhanced by him bringing that up. Especially in retrospect to what actually happens when they come to the end of their boat ride and get to the academy, and Matt describes this bird, gargoyle-like creature that's coming right for FCG. And that was the last line of Scott's notes that he sent me. Shithead is real. We'll attack next episode. So yeah, that moment would have been much better served if Matt wasn't so intent on delivering the environment to the players. And this episode felt disjointed isn't a right word, but there was more of a tug of war, seemingly, between the players and the DM and what their focus wanted to be on. And the players wanted to focus on each other, as it were, and Matt wanted to focus on sort of moving the story ahead. And where those moments came together was Imogen and her scenes, which is why I kind of want to put Laura as MVP, but also I don't know if it's right to do that. But for me, I think that's where I have to go for this episode. Yeah, there's just a lot of, I don't know, and maybe I was a little oversensitive to the things that Matt was doing that were sort of irking me, because I just put all of us out of our misery on a campaign that was not going anywhere. I felt too many things were going not right with it. Players said they were having fun, and I tried to make it impactful and engaging, but we were trying to do too much with it, I think, is the bottom line of what happened. And holidays are coming up. I said, this campaign's not going to survive a 3-week break, guys. So I put an end to it. And largely because everyone was having some kind of an issue with some aspect of the campaign. And it wasn't the same for everybody. And so I don't know. This episode just sort of brought it all up in my brain. And Matt going on very long exposition, I was just like, ugh. Uh, get on with it, Monty Python. Yeah. Oh man, Ashton. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Um, thank you, Rose. Ashton was also on my short list for MVP. Um, and from him getting the drinks and like naming them, describing them, was very much in a very condensed way the same sort of thought that Liam expressed with Caleb designing the tower, and the thought and love put into each room of their bedrooms. Him thinking of each of them and getting a drink for each of them. And maybe this is because of a question on Four-Sided Dive that was asked. That could be it. And yes, exactly. You beat me to it, Rose. The Ashton talking to Pate moment and Marisha's reaction was amazing. I loved it. And I loved Taliesin saying, "Oh, well, I did that. My point was to be separate, so no one would necessarily hear. I didn't want anyone to really hear that." And I'm like, well, that's cute, but you're talking to somebody who's familiar. If she wants to hear what's being said to him, she just steps in and gets it firsthand. Or he just telepathically relays the information to her. So in my brain, Marisha reacting to everything that Ashton was saying is absolutely correct and in canon. And yeah, I don't care what Taliesin says, thinks, or wanted to happen. She heard it, she knows it, and her reaction to it is life to the shippers. And was so good. Sunday action. Yes. Yeah. For sure. I think there was some very, like, how Ashton expresses emotion and caring for people in that. And and Laudna definitely picked up on it and was excited by it. But also a hint of possible campaign truth that with her Pact of the Chain, maybe that is where Delilah is, somewhere in there. Because they didn't have Pike do her thing on Pate, and she couldn't exactly sense her, but nor could she say that she was definitely gone from Laudna. Only she was absolutely certain that she was not in control of the body, which is what Percy needed to hear to not kill them all. So good. And yeah, I mean, it will definitely be legendary if it does come true and Ashton can be like, I fucking knew it. The return of EXU and Fern and Orem putting on a street performance in the middle of the casino was also a nice little callback. I don't know. I kind of doubt, like, them putting on the performance doesn't help the lie, I don't think. Because professional performers are not going to do the show for free, you know? And this guy's not affiliated with the hotel or anything. What does it matter if he believes them or not? So, and then they just caused more people to pay attention to them. The video gamer logic of I'm going to cast detect thoughts and sort of read the random minds that we pass and hearing different rumors. Laura was like, an item has been added to your quest log. Was funny. And I don't think will probably come of anything. It was just a way for Matt to additionally add layers of lived-in information within the city. And I thought of something that I think Matt could use, and if you have a player who just sort of cast detect thoughts to randomly walk through a crowd, have this on the ready, like slips of paper with the surface thoughts. 6 seconds, no more than 25 words on the slip of paper, essentially a sending spell. Put them in a hat, a bucket, or whatever. Say, you can draw up to 10 of these. 1 a minute. And just have weird stuff. And have one of them, I think, as I was thinking about this, I was like, what could you do to set up potential random encounters for your players that they can choose to engage in or not engage in? And like one of them that I thought of was, and in their case, somebody noticing Laudna or Imogen and like thinking about killing them, or even just a serial killer's monologue stalking prey, that kind of thing, where the player now has this information, and also it's important not for the other players to hear it, because the other thing that I think would be hilarious is they pull it, something's funny, and they laugh. And they're like, what? And I would like that moment to be genuine and in character. And I can't think of another way for that to happen without making it slips of paper. And I used something like that when I played an Alcavian who had multiple personality disorder, schizophrenia, and obsessive compulsive disorder. I gave the DM of the game a 3x5 card with numbers, and I would express to him what the other personality was saying, because that was his schizophrenic hallucinations, was the other personality. The one not in control would talk to the other one that was in control. And the obsessive compulsion was to look for reflective surfaces because he saw the other personality in the reflective surfaces. So I would tell the DM the number of a phrase that I had written on the card, and then I, the player, would react to that phrase, and no one else at the table knew what the hell was going on, and the DM would laugh, and it was so good. It was so funny, and it helped play out the crazy Malkavian. But yeah. At any rate, I think next episode is the last one of the year. We'll be here talking about it following Tuesday. We'll have a short battle. I don't think it's going to be particularly dangerous. And I think I also will I might stream randomly next week, between the weekend and the 1st. Shithead's the final boss, yeah. Anyway, we'll see you guys then. Take care of yourselves and each other.